Super Tuesday. Normally we talk superheroes. Thor's coming up, but we got to finish our Stranger Things Volume 2 of Season 4 discussion. Totally spoilers. If you're not prepared, you should be, because it's all spoilers today on Digital Charcuterie. Joining me is Rob McDonald. Rob, what up?
James, I'm happy to be here. Happy to talk some Stranger Things because, based on our discussion last week, I think we were both pretty excited for this thing.
We were excited, and the episodes came, and it was 4 hours, and they came and they went just like that. It took me a couple of days to watch them. How did you watch them immediately on? So Friday in Canada is Canada Day. It's like our July 4th, Independence Day, where we do fireworks and everything. Did you skip out on fireworks, Rob, and go straight to Stranger Things, or did you have time to do both?
Technically, I had enough time to do both, but I only saw the fireworks from a distance, more or less. I had to work during the day, and then afterwards, when I got home, that's when the 4-hour binge started, and then the 4-hour binge, and then I was done by about 8:30, and still got a chance to go out and have a brewski or two.
The binge section, it was long. It was 4 hours, I guess, all in all. Give or take around there. So this is spoilers for Stranger Things Season 4 Volume 2 going on right now. We'll kick it off with Eddie Munson's dead. Dead, just gone. He got destroyed.
What a way to start it off. Poor Eddie.
I think I don't know. I feel like we both kind of thought Eddie was going to die. He didn't seem like he was a great character, but he didn't seem like one that was who was going to be in the Stranger Things universe for much longer. He could, of course, return in season 5 in some sort of flashback, or Vecna can use him to try to get to that what's his face now, Dustin. He could use him to get to Dustin. Who knows what's going to happen there? We don't even know. Vecna might not even be in season 5. It would be weird if Vecna wasn't, but I'm guessing Vecna is. But Eddie Munson perishes. The Duffer Brothers said, "Oh, people are going to die. Be prepared. They're going to die." And really, no one really died.
Yeah, we were kind of misled a little bit. Like we got into some like real discussions as to big characters that could potentially die when we talked about it last time, and I feel like the Duffer Brothers kind of sold us a bill of goods that didn't really turn out. I mean, arguably, like they were telling us these big deaths in the finale and stuff like that, and maybe they were thinking about both episodes as a finale, but arguably, the biggest death happened in episode 8, not episode 9, right?
Who died in 8?
Brenner.
Oh, I actually watched the second half of the first episode and all of the last episode together. So they kind of blend together. Yeah, I guess so. But I thought he already died, and then they mentioned, right, like they brought him back. So yeah,
but that's a recording for Stranger Things, right? You thought that a character died, but then they came back. Like that's kind of a repeat of things that Stranger Things seems to do.
Yeah, and then Eddie being the new character, and they kill the new character, which they're good at keeping new characters as well, but they're also great at killing new characters. You look at Bob, you look at the Russian, and then you have Eddie this year now. So they have these characters that we grow to love and then wipe them out at the end of the season. And obviously Barb started it all in season 1. But yeah, let's get into Max then, because we kind of said on Friday, like I said anyway, that I didn't think Max was going to be the one that was going to go because of this. Yeah. But I did say that there was a way for them to do it that wouldn't feel like a cop-out. And I actually think they succeeded in that. I felt like it was actually a natural progression of how the character should go. Like when they did it, I was like, oh, it's never forced, never felt like a fake out. And then there's a point where like, is she going to die? Is she not going to die? And ultimately she winds up in a coma with, I guess, broken legs and broken arms. And Eleven's kind of the one who said no. And then 11 goes to find her later and she's gone, right? Her mind is gone. So I guess we're supposed to take that as perhaps she's dead at that point. I'm not really sure how you took it.
I mean, I don't think she's dead. I think she's coming back in some type of way, and whatever this, supernatural coma that she's in is gonna get snapped out of it in some way in the in season 5. That's at least the way I kind of take it. Like it just unfortunately to me kind of added on to like the list of fake deaths that we've gotten so far. Like I feel like when she does come back, and it could take a few episodes in season 5, we'll see, but I do think she is coming back. And I mean, we mentioned Eddie and stuff like that. It's one that we thought about that might die, but he was kind of like an easy one to predict.
Yeah.
Which is kind of why I thought it's like, oh, I don't think that he's going to die. But Eddie got some pretty great moments to live out before he died. I mean, playing Master of Puppets to draw out all the bats was pretty metal and awesome, to be honest.
One thing these last 2 episodes did, and I think with the Duffer Brothers coming out and saying someone's going to die or multiple people are going to die, there were moments in this episode that, because that was in the back of my mind, I was like, oh man, they were setting up every character to die. Every character was set up to die. All had like their last moment. If you go back and watch it, they all have like some little speech that they give and some little backstory that makes you go, well, now they can die, because it's, they all had that, and none of them did it. None of them ended up dying that did it. But I thought that was great. It was kind of leading you on in a honest way, right? Like, because those were honest scenes. Maybe they kind of gave you the idea that, oh, they're going to go now, but then they didn't have to, and it didn't feel like it was that they were ripping me off in any way in what they were doing. It felt honest of them. And I think of like some of the stuff that Marvel does, and I'm like, you jerks, like, you do things just to screw over with the fans, and everything should be honest. So I really like that. I will say my biggest disappointment so far in this season has to be the Jock character now. Like, after it all came to pass, it was like he was literally just there to step on the Walkman. That was literally the only purpose of the Jock, was to step on that Walkman and to get Lucas out of the way so he couldn't bring Max back. And it's like, all like going through everything we went through, is like, and then he just gets sliced in half. It was kind of like,
yeah,
that to me was underwhelming. And just looking back on his character the whole season, it's almost like, I mean, it's good for Lucas to learn like he is who he is and not to try to be somebody else. But at the same time, that storyline fell flat for me.
It fell flat for me too, because like, I don't know why he had this big rousing speech in front of the town, right, to get them all to get up and go and try to find this cult, right? Why did that even happen? Because we didn't even see any of that get paid off in any type of way, right? Like the way he shows up, like, he's in the little, what would have been called survival store that they got into. They saw him there, and then the next time we see him is showing up at one's old house, right, in the car with his one remaining living friend, right? And it's like, so what was the point of him having this big rousing speech in front of everybody to do that? Maybe that'll help pay off, like, in season 5 in some type of way, but I don't even, I don't even know why that was the case. And
I think it was just an 80s moment.
Yeah, and I thought that they built up his character like more definitively than I thought. That's why when we were talking about it, I predicted that he was going to kill somebody. And I guess by stepping on the Walkman, he kind of killed somebody, but not in the way I was expecting, right? Like, he sort of causes, because of what he does, causes Max's death, right? But it's still not, it was not as significant as I was expecting his story.
No, it was like I feel like they could have killed or whatever with Max without him there, and just done it in a way where Lucas wasn't able to get to her or something, like she put the Walkman down, she's flying in the air, how is he supposed to get it on her head? There were other options to get there, and it just, and when that happened, I was like, and then when he got sliced in half, I was like, that's it, like that's the end of, they're just like, they just wiped out that entire storyline. It kind of like 8, right? They're just like, we don't need that anymore, let's get rid of it.
Well, yeah, and like, the thing I'll slightly defend it on is that, having him have his little fight with Lucas and stuff like that kind of helped resolve the Lucas's storyline with the way it started in the beginning of the season. That's the one thing I'll say, because at first he seemed like he wanted to be a jock, he wanted to be like, the basketball hero and stuff like that. He didn't want to be the Dungeons and Dragons guy anymore. And this resolution with the fight and all that type of stuff, in a way, did it, just not as well as it could have been, and probably should.
Yeah, no, I recognize that. I just, they could have been done in a different way, and you still could have had the same outcome for Max if that's the outcome that you need. I don't know. These were good episodes. I think while I watched it, I thought it was a mistake to split them up the way they did. It just didn't feel necessary. It's like, why did I? Because then you wait, and then all this coming out is like, it's gonna blow your minds. These are gonna be the best episodes ever. And then by the time the hype gets here, it's like, well, no, that was good, but it wasn't. It was. It's like, and what was the point of splitting? It never. I don't know. The splitting them up. Netflix loves doing that. I don't see the point in it. Just go weekly if you want to do it. Like I mean, I know it creates the buzz for the second half of the season, but I don't know. It made it kind of. I think it hurt them. I think obviously the ratings are going to come in. They're going to be massive, but I think it hurt them a little bit in terms of expectations versus what you get. And I just watching. I'm just like, why was it split up into two? Why?
See, my thing is, I think it was, whether we describe the way they ended these final two episodes is one thing, but I feel like setting up the first 7 episodes the way they did and then leaving the gap kept the conversation going for Stranger Things after the conversation for Stranger Things had seemingly been at a minimum. Yeah, but then you're already
because now it's because now it's
model,
but now it's dead again. Now it's going to be dead again for 3 years, 2-3 years till the next one comes out. That's the thing. Yeah. It's like go weekly. Like if you're going to do it, just go weekly. Don't split it in half. I guess 2 episodes. 2 episodes is ridiculous.
I guess they could have gone weekly if they really wanted to, but that messes with the Netflix model of them trying to do like Netflix. A binge. Yeah, well, I mean, it's still the number one streaming service in the world, right? That it still is, regardless of that fact. And also, like, just I feel like there would have been a couple of dud episodes that would have kept, like, the conversation going slower for Netflix, like for Stranger Things. Like when they finally got to episode 4, like that's when things were really becoming big because then the Kate Bush sensation came in and stuff like that. But before that, like there was a couple of fairly dud episodes I thought that would have like slowed the pace for the season. I feel like
Stranger Things is built for the binge, I know, but that's why the splitting it up is the stupidest thing ever to begin with. But just go weekly. Like if you're going to split up, just go weekly and let us. Even the dud episodes, Rob. If you look at the Star Wars shows that are duds, like Boba Fett, that everybody hated Boba Fett, and then the final episode of Boba Fett was the most watched show on Disney Plus, or it's 30. Like it's like people are going to stick around because they're already invested. We're not going away, whether it's a dud or not, and just I don't know. The break in between was just stupid. It's only a month. I know it does keep the conversation going, but if you want to really keep going, just first of all, here's a couple things. 1, weekly. 2, don't just be like, hey, it'll come back when it comes back. Be like, hey, we need you guys to make this episode like this. Give us a hard date. Like, because that's one thing that kills the Stranger Things buzz is I don't even remember when season 3 came out. I actually don't remember when it came out. And season 2, like they just kind of like randomly like, yeah, it's coming out now, and you're like, all right, I guess I'll watch it, but I can't right now. And the other thing I hate about binging is just we all watch it at such different times and on different speeds. It's frustrating. You can't go on social media till after it's done. It's really annoying that way.
Yeah, it's difficult to spread the conversation online between you and other people because different people are, on different parts of the show, right? So that's what kind of makes it difficult. I mean, at least when you do have these weekly shows, it's like everybody's more or less up to date, right? Everybody's talking about the episode that just happened, right? And I do think that maybe a model that they should consider doing is more of like a Amazon Prime type of model, where Amazon Prime likes to release their first 3 episodes right off the bat and then go weekly afterwards, right?
And yeah, no, I like that too. For these binge shows, that's great.
Yeah. But back to like the episode itself. I mean, I don't know about you, but I really felt like that the 2.5 hours for the actual finale was a little bit too much for me. Like, splitting you kind of had to do it with like splitting these storylines, right? Because you had multiple things climaxing at the same time, right? You had the Russia storyline versus wherever, I forget what city Mike 11 and all them were in. You had Nancy and Steve and whatnot, with them going upside down, and then all the stuff with Max and so forth, right? They kind of were trying to climax that stuff all at the same time, but it just wound up like being a case where it was like, it felt like when Hopper went in to go get that demo dog,
Yeah.
and then come out, it felt like he was running from that demo dog for like 15 minutes to me. I don't know about you, because then they had the climax, Vecna and the 11th thing, and then it's like, oh, your friends are gonna die, and then like Hopper's still running from the demo dog. I'm like, come on, like I feel like they could have done that final episode shorter than they did. Don't get me wrong. Altogether, I think I did like these 2 episodes quite a bit. They just fell below the high I was on for the first 7.
Yeah, and maybe if we watched them closer, we didn't have this month gap. Maybe they wouldn't have felt as. I like them too. I don't want to sound like I didn't, but yeah, I know what you're saying though. I felt like they did it twice. I think where they're like everything's kind of happening at the same time. And the first time it happened, I was like, "Oh man, this is so well done." And then the second time, I'm like, "Are you like it's too coincidental? Like how is everything happening at the same time now?" It's just the first time I was like, "Oh, things are working out." This time I'm like, "Oh, this is just." You're doing it for dramatic effect, and I wasn't buying it at that point. And I texted you when I was watching it. The ending after that was like Return of the King, where it ended, and then it ended, and then it ended, and then it kept going. And I was like, oh, at some point they're gonna have to wrap it up, and they didn't. I'm like, okay, well, and you always kind of knew, there was no real surprises in the ending either, right? It was like, and that's not a knock on it. That's what you're expecting. Everything you're happening to expect is happening. But they did it in like this drawn out way. It was like, okay, it's been 2 hours now.
Well, because
a half hour.
Because we all knew what the final shot, like what the final moments of were going to be. As soon as that, the ground cracked open, right, and Vecna succeeded, right. We all knew how it was going to end. It just took a while to get to that point. Right. They had to give you those 2 extra days, and then the added character development, and 11 getting reunited with Hopper, and Robin getting together, starting to develop her relationship with Vicky and all that type of stuff. They just had to fit in all that stuff, and Dustin talking to Eddie's dad. Like they just added on so many things before they got to where what we knew the final visual was going to be.
And you could have done it with like the Never-Ending Story, a slow acoustic version of Never-Ending Story, and we just whoop through everything and we see what's happening.
They already did that.
The Hopper 11 thing, I think, was necessary because of 2 major characters.
Yes,
I think the Maya Hawke thing and that could have just been in a little swoop. And I think the Dustin and Eddie's uncle could have been in a swoop as well, because they were. I mean, they're good. They're good moments. They're fun moments earlier in the season, but when you're wrapping it up, it's like after 2 hours. If you split this episode into maybe two episodes, maybe I don't feel that way. But it was 2.5 hours of one episode. Like I said, I watched the last 40 minutes of the one before it, right in front of it. I felt like it was going. Let's get into Vecna a little bit. When the first half of the season ended, I was like, I thought what they did with Vecna was phenomenal. This one, I still liked him, but I think I was, and maybe we got this in 5, but I doubt it. I was hoping for a little bit more with him and 11 somehow, and I don't mean just yelling at each other and like force throwing. By the way, this season was like a Empire Strikes Back start to finish. Like 11 in her stormtrooper outfit the entire time. Was Murray saying I have a bad feeling about this. This whole thing was just, I felt like I was watching like Star Wars. And then it ended on a downer, and they all lose, and they're told that they lose. It's very Empire Strikes Back in a lot of ways. But I was kind of hoping for a little bit, and of course Vecna being not maybe 11's father, that could still come out. You never know. But Vecna being connected to 11 is very Empire Strikes Back in a lot of ways. But I just the Vecna 11, I think maybe it was in my head, but I was kind of hoping for a little bit more than just you, and then like the monologue that he had.
Well, because I guess we can get into this, because I fully don't think that Vecna is dead. I think he's coming back 100% in season 5, which is why I kind of think that it's like this a showdown is going to develop even more and go into even bigger showdown in season 5. Like this was almost like the appetizer. This was Obi-Wan versus Vader in episode 3. That's what this one was to me. And it's like we're about to see both these characters probably level up to a different level in season 5, because who knows what Vecna, getting the upside down into our world is going to do to his power and his reach as as the overall villain. And I mean, we talked about this last week, how we all expected, because of that Dustin line, that he was still the subservient to the Mind Flayer, right? Like we talked about that, because Dustin Flaunt says, like, oh, he's Vecna is
General.
his three-star general, right? That's what he is. But then we find out in this episode where it's like, oh, he pretty much created the Mind Flayer, right? Like he's the one that he's the ultimate villain, and it's just everyone else is just foot soldiers to him. So I mean, as soon as they did that, I was like, okay, like I wasn't so sure that Vecna was dying like I was before these final 2 episodes, because I was like, kind of like, oh, I think Vecna's story is probably going to finish off here. But now it's like, he's the number 1 big bad.
Yeah, I kind of, when he was revealed to be number 1, I kind of got that feeling that he wouldn't that he wouldn't be the big bad, and I was trying to figure out how you. And then you mentioned the Mind Flayer, but yeah, I like. He's obviously going to be back. I mean, Will can still feel him. He says that very much in the last episode.
Oh yeah,
and I like that the Duffer Brothers say that Will's also going to have a bigger part in season 5. I like that they went back to Will having that connection. I'm curious to see what Will will do. Is what's curious, because Will, I think as we focus all on like 11 and Vecna and whatnot, but Will is special in this story in a lot of ways, and the biggest way is that time stood still in his Hawkins home in the first season of the show. In that time, right? It froze in that time, and how could that be, and why would that be? And I think that's something that's going to get explored deeply in season 5. And I'm starting to think maybe Will has a deeper connection to all of this than any of us or anyone in the show suspects. Like maybe it wasn't a coincidence that Will was taken. Maybe he somehow knows more about the Upside Down and whatnot than anybody else. I mean, he figured out how to use Christmas lights without, like we saw this year, right? They used, because Will knew, that's how they knew. But how did Will know? Like he found ways to communicate in season 1 that as the lore goes on, it's like, well, how did he figure that out? So there might be a little bit more to Will, or a lot more to Will, that we're going to learn about.
There could be. I mean, I'm still unsure about that stuff. The one thing I really thought, especially with the rewatch, and the rewatch was the thing that really got me there, is that there was a lot of people that assumed that when the gate opened, right, when 11 pushed 1 through that gate and opened up the crack for the first time, they assumed that was how it happened. That's all the same night that Will gets kidnapped and stuff like that. However, with my rewatch and rewatching it all, I was just like, that 11 in that flashback is smaller than the 11 in season 1.
Yeah.
So which right away made me think it's like, oh, I don't think that this is the same night. I think that this is at least a year beforehand. And we pretty much got that confirmation that it was, right? Because afterwards, especially when she pushed Vecna /1 through the gate kind of closed up and so forth. And then also, I believe Brenner says something along the lines of, it's like, oh, you entered a coma or something like that after that for a couple months or something like that, right? Saying that to 11. So, like, I still think there's something to be revealed about the company. There's something to reveal about the company, because the fact that gate kind of sort of closed and a Demogorgon gets through, like the Demogorgon is the number 1 thing that kind of attacks Will, right? In which the moment that he gets attacked, right? So I still think there's another mystery to reveal there, and that they might be part of the reason why 1, the Demogorgon got out, and 2, why it's frozen on that day, why the Upside Down is frozen on that day, because we also found out that it's like, as soon as we went through, it is very chaotic, right? It's like, it's more like a volcano. It's Mountain Doom, essentially. The Upside Down was when Vecna got through, right? And that's when he sees the Demodogs and Demogorgon, and then when he creates the Mind Flayer, right? So I have a feeling that, yes, Will probably has a really big part to play in terms of the origin of the Upside Down and why it's frozen on that day. However, I still think the company, the Brenner's company, has a lot to do with it as well.
Yeah, no, they do. But also, I don't think the whole Upside Down is frozen in that day. I think the house and surrounding area is frozen on that day, because I don't think Eddie's house was frozen in that time, because that guitar, I don't feel like that guitar would have been there had it been frozen on the same day.
I mean, yeah, that's a possible point. I mean, it's a question as to how, because how long is the actual, how long has it been since the first season? I'm trying to think.
I don't even know. This show doesn't make sense to me.
Because I guess I feel like it's like, there's 4 seasons. However, it's less than 4 years, because they also say that 8 months ago is when season 3 happened, 8 months before this, right? So that just also makes me think that it's like, like there's been a lot less time passed by than we think it is. So I mean, it's possible, like, Eddie could have easily still been a guitar player and whatnot 3.5 years ago, let's say.
Yeah, but I don't think it would have been the same guitar, is what I'm saying.
Did they say that was it specifically the same guitar? That I don't know.
I think it was the same guitar. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. I think I do think the company's got more to do with it. But is Paul Reiser dead? Do you think Paul Reiser's dead?
I think he's still alive. He's going to be a victim of this contingent within the company, right? The army that's trying to kill 11, and so forth. I feel like they probably have him, but maybe not as well, because also that woman that Hopper calls, right? She seemed to be able to confirm that he is alive, right? More or less.
Yeah, that was okay. So the military thing also, I didn't like the ending of that one either. They're like, we got to kill 11. Go to kill 11. 2 days later, and they're vanished. Like, wouldn't they go to Hawkins right away? They just had this giant, like, interdimensional earthquake up here. Like, wouldn't they be the first one? So that I mean, I'm sure they'll play into it in season 5. But for this season, like you said, you spend all that time with the Eddie's uncle and the I don't remember my hawk. You spend all your time on that stuff. But this is also a question, and they just vanish. They just kind of disappear, and they're like, yeah, whatever. That felt empty to me. I hope it gets resolved in season 5. I felt like they could have had a little. That one deserved a tease, I think, for me, because they played such a big part of this. And now, do they blame 11 for this earthquake? Like, they could be the ones that they couldn't just view that earthquake as a coincidence, right? In Hawkins, like, these military guys, like, well, they would put 2 and 2 together very quick. Maybe Paul Reiser puts 2 and 2 together very quick. So that it intrigues me going into season 5. I wish we got a little bit more of it this season.
I mean, yeah, they definitely have a card to play still within all that. And I mean, I guess them showing up. Well, I guess the military was there, right? Maybe not necessarily this military, but yeah, I'm curious where that thing goes. I mean, whether they still blame 11 or not is another question, because it's like, seemingly one of her friends was the final, victim and whatnot to make the whole thing happen. So maybe they still would suspect them 11, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I feel like they would.
You think they would? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
I think there's going to be a turning point, because everybody's going to have to band together in season 5, and so we'll see. I thought these episodes were really good. I think they would have been viewed probably stronger had they been released. Like, if I would have just watched them all together, they probably would have been a bit stronger. But because of that break, because you have time to think, and they were so long. I don't know. I still feel like they probably could have made these 3 episodes. Like just spread them out just a little bit and give them some breathing room. Like the last half hour is the Return of the King with all the multiple endings. But I really enjoyed it. The show's so good at characters. Argyle is still alive, so we got that to look forward to.
Yeah, I don't know. And speaking of the characters that survived, I was shocked that Dimitri and Yuri, especially, both still survived. I thought for sure they were dying in some type of blaze of glory, especially when he convinced them to take the helicopter out there. I was like, oh man, like they're gonna die in some way, saving Hopper and the rest of them in some type of way is what I thought. Like as soon
No,
as
they made it.
yeah, but they made it through it all. Like but yeah, I mean, another character that I think we talked about a little bit, and especially his diminished role in season 4, and really, I was not too happy with the way his character was done in the final 2 episodes was Mike again. And I mean, Mike, he literally felt like he was a plot device, especially in these final 2 episodes, right? He was a plot device for, like, 11 to, for him to say I love you to 11 again, right? And to get her to, unleash her power and whatnot, and be able to take down Vecna. And it's like that was the whole reason. It's like he was not saying I love you earlier and then he got to say it again at the end, like that. He was literally around for 2 words and for Will to start, having his sexual feelings for Mike coming out. But that's literally all it felt like his character was there for. I was very, very upset with the way they handled this character in season 4.
Yeah, I mean, he was. I think they kind of ran out of things for him to do. Joyce in a lot of ways. Who else? For a bit, Lucas for a bit. I think like Lucas's sister was stronger at the beginning. Like they there's. I think Millie Bobby Brown said there's too many characters. I think she might be right. There's a lot of characters in this show, and there's not enough room for everybody. But we all expect them all to be there. And there wasn't much for Mike to do. I think they had them on their little adventure, which was great, but it was such a side story that it didn't matter until they got to 11. So we didn't need any of that until they got to 11, right? They could have just been, we found you because, well, like it was fun, but we didn't ultimately need it. And none of the characters in that van really had anything to do until they got with 11. And then even getting to 11, really, we just need 11 and salt. Argyle's the only one that was needed because they needed to get the salt from the pizza place.
Yeah, and then they needed his weed to get it as well, I guess, too.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I hope Mike has a bigger role. I think he will, since Will is presumably having a bigger role in season 5. So you'd think that would elevate Mike's role as well. I hope there's more focus on. They're not kids anymore, but the kids. I'm going to call them the kids for the sake of it. Man, it's wild when they do those flashbacks. And you're like, oh my God, they're so young. I don't know if we needed as many flashbacks as we got. I'm going to point that out. I don't think we needed, frankly, any of them, but whatever. Every time I saw one, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm old. I hope they focus more on the kids in the upcoming season, but I feel like it's going to be more all-out war and chaos. So it might not be that sense of fun and joy that we like from Stranger Things necessarily.
Yeah, and I do think with Mike still there was a reason they still set up with Will, like, showing him that painting and stuff like that, and fully on telling you that he's basically the leader of the kids, right? Like he's the one that's that's leading the charge and whatnot. And I don't think that was there just as tributing, telling you what the past was. I think that he will still be the one that more or less leads the kids in season 5 as well. And I mean, I keep calling them kids, but they're probably going to be like 20, 20,
Yeah,
20.
no.
I mean, in real life, they're in their 20s now, I think.
Yeah, it's insane. Growing up before our eyes, although they take forever to make. And in 6 years, we've gotten 4 seasons only. So I mean, but the quality's always been there. Yeah, I think Mike's gonna have a bigger role in the next season for sure. Obviously, the Upside Down is merging with the real world. So, I mean, because my thought was just leave Hawkins.
If everyone else seemed to be having, a lot of other people seem to be having that idea, but not so much others.
But I mean, like, even like if something's going on under Hawkins, just move out. Just tell it, like, be like, hey, nobody go near here, and we won't have this rift. Mm-hmm. How bad should it be? I'm tired, Rob. I watched 4 hours of Stranger Things on the weekend.
Yeah.
It's a long time. It was a lot of fun. I hope, David Arbor thinks that they're going to finish writing it sometime this year, and they'll start shooting it next year, and it'll probably be released in 2024 is what he believes, which makes me kind of wish that there was a sixth season to kind of give us a 10-year run of Stranger Things on TV. Like, just it's been on for 10 years, but it'll be on for 8 years if that's the case. It'll be, that's a long time for a show that clearly every episode costs a lot of money and it looks like a little movie.
And who knows? I mean, they had a volume 1 and a volume 2 here, but I would not be surprised if they do a part 1 and part 2 as well for that part. And at least, like, it'll probably be the longest amount of episodes we've had so far. I would guess it could be like a 6 and 6 type of a thing.
Yeah, I hope they use whatever they need to finish it. Like, that's it. Like, just don't overdo it. Don't just give us what we need. Do you have any other thoughts on this last episode?
No, like, again, I think we've talked a lot of negatively about it, but however, I should say that I do like it all quite a bit. Like, it was all done like fairly well. I'm glad Steve survived. If I'm really being honest about one thing, I'm glad he made it through.
He had a speech, and I was like, "Oh my god, are they going to kill Steve?" But that the fact that they tweeted that thing like "protect Steve at all costs" made me think that Steve's not going to die because it was too on the nose.
I mean, I've already told you, like, my two favorite characters in Stranger Things are right there, Steve and Robin. And when Robin even gets grabbed by the tentacles for the first time, I thought, and her being the first one to be grabbed, I'm like, oh man, like, is she gonna die here? And that would have made me upset too. But they all survived through it all, and they're setting up a pretty big season 5. So I'm very much looking forward to it. I do still think altogether season 4 is still probably, I think, the strongest season of Stranger Things, at least.
I think season 4 you get rid of Brenner and you get rid of Eddie and maybe Max, and then season 5, that's when if you're going to go hard, that's when you go hard. The problem with the show is are we going to, any of us going to be ready to see any of these characters go? Because that in like 10 years, you're going to be like, I wish they brought back a new Stranger Things and the kids of the Stranger Things characters were now in a, you know what I mean? Like, do we want to see any of them go? I mean, I'm sure one or two might go. Mike might go. I think Will's got, I think Will's a goner. I think, I said that this season, I think Will's definitely going to be a goner. But if he's a goner, then you got to worry about Joyce and Jonathan, and is Jonathan and Nancy going to be a thing? And then there's Steve. So I feel like you got to get, I think, I'm okay. I'm going to say right now, Rob, Will's a goner. Steve's going to be a goner. And somebody else is going to as well. It's either going to be Hopper or
maybe just kill the entire Byers family. All 3 of them will die at some point in season 5.
Did I say Nancy's
no, Will, Jonathan, and Joyce.
No, I think it'll be Steve over Jonathan, though. And it could be all 3 of them. You could be right. They could do that. But I think it's going to be Steve, Will, because they're going to get rid of Steve.
Maybe Nancy will just be the death grip or stuff like that. Like, Steve might die in the first half if they do a half, and then she's going to get together with Jonathan again, and then Jonathan's going to die by the end of it all. And she's going to be like, "Oh, I'm the kiss of death."
Yeah. No, I think it'll be Will, Steve, and 11.
It would make sense.
But 11 will come back somehow. I don't know how. It might not even be in Millie Bobby Brown's body, but she'll come back.
It'll be in a much older actress's body. I feel like they should have done a longer time jump than 2 days, though. Maybe they'll do a time jump for season 5. Maybe it'll be like,
it felt like the cut to black was longer than the 2 days. Like, it was like, it was the longest cut to black ever.
Yeah.
I was like, what are you getting at here?
Yeah, I know. Altogether, it was just a very strong season. I liked it quite a bit. And, I just wish they could have nailed the ending a little bit more. And also, maybe if the Duffer Brothers didn't set our expectations pretty high by making those comments last week as well, that could have helped, possibly.
Well, I think, honestly, they said that because there were all those there were all those scenes where it's like, oh, this person now can die, this person. So I think they said that to get that in your head, like anybody can go. And then, so that way you're more on the edge of
But
your seat, right?
but you said this, James, yourself, like the way they set it all up that anybody could die. They should have let their storytelling do that for them, right? When people watch that episode 8 and they start setting up all the different characters, I feel like it would have been so much stronger if their storytelling on screen told me that, as opposed to them full on telling me that and now setting my expectations that somebody has to die versus, me worrying or expecting that someone might die because of the way they set up the story. I feel like
Yeah,
it would have. I feel like those final 2 episodes would have benefited by them not opening their mouths and saying that.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
I completely agree with that. I think that kind of because it strings you along and makes you expect something. All right, Rob, we're gonna wrap it up. Anything else you want to talk about on this episode?
No, I mean Thor's coming up. You mentioned at the top, so I'm very excited for that. And maybe I'll do a out of theater reaction after I watch that on 5 o'clock at 5 o'clock on Thursday.
Out of theater reaction right here. Rob saying that he hated the movie because it had way too much humor in it, as does 71% of the critics or something like that are saying the same thing. That's what the score was at. Let's see. Hold on. As of this recording, Thor. Is it Love and Thunder? Rotten Tomatoes. Here we go. Thor, Love and Thunder on Rotten Tomatoes, Rob. The View. It's currently 72%.
72. Yeah, that's what I saw earlier today.
But, 120 reviews. So it's doubled the reviews since I last saw. It's still above all the other movies that are out except for one called Fire and Love. See, they should have gone Thor, Fire and Love. But they did Love and Thunder.
That's the next one. That's the next one.
Fire and Love has 100%.
Yeah. The next one has Pyro in it from the
X-Men. It's a documentary. Yeah.
No,
oh, man. Russo brothers want to do an X-Men movie, so
yeah, that's cool. That'd be. I'd like to see him come back. I like them as the directors for the MCU quite a bit.
Well, I think Taika Waititi's done now for the MCU. I think he's going to move on after this.
I hope not, because I want to see his goats return. But apparently, his goats are going to be in James Gunn's hands after this.
Of course. Well, I have no idea what the goats are, but I think he is going to retire from the MCU for a little while.
He's got to do a Star Wars movie, right?
He's got to do Star Wars, apparently. Yeah, we'll see what happens there. Yeah. All right, Rob, thank you so much for joining me on Super Tuesday to talk about Stranger Things. I know it's not that super, but they do refer to Eleven as a superhero in it. So I guess technically it is a superhero show.
Yeah, and Vecna's a supervillain. There you go.
All right, Rob, where can everybody find you at?
Find me at Robert E. McDonald on Instagram and Twitter, as you see. Nope, right there. And then, of course, Nightwing with a 6 instead of a G on Letterboxd. Yeah, I'll probably be rating and reviewing Thor on there soon too. So
check it out.
I'll finally update my MCU list over there of my favorite ones. There we go. I have to look forward to.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Give us a like and a subscribe. And until next time, may you be the master of your own universe.